I'm J. Rachel Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we're the hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast all about the ins, the outs, and the retcons of our favorite superhero soap opera.
We're also the hosts of Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men,
which you're watching right now,
where we talk about the X books that come out each week.
This week, we're looking at the books of January 6th, 2015, as well as one from last week. We did record reviews last week, but the sound got completely screwed up, so they didn't end up going up. So we'll be looking at all new Wolverine this week as well.
So let's go ahead and jump into our 4 books. Wow, 4 books. That's a lot more than we do these days, usually.
Right? It's like last year.
It's like old times.
First up is last week's Soul Book, All New Wolverine number 3, written by Tom Taylor, with art by David Lopez and David Navarro, and colors by Nathan Fairbairn. It's a strong continuation of a strong series, and I especially want to call out the art in this issue. We mentioned previously how cool it is to see Laura drawn with the same framing and style as the original Wolverine, as Logan, with none of the sexualization we're used to seeing with female characters in that situation. But with also a very visibly distinct and individual fighting style. That continues to come across really beautifully here, and especially in looking at Laura in comparison to the other clones of her who appear in this issue. They've all got distinct visual features, but even if they didn't, the way they're portrayed, the way they move in their body language would be enough to tell them apart, and that's really remarkable.
Yeah, that takes some doing. One thing I also really enjoyed is something that books like this don't really discuss very often. Books or stories or whatever, like I just got done watching the Daredevil series, where you have characters who never killed, but just maim the living hell out of people.
Right.
I mean, playing Batman Arkham Knight, I don't think those people are okay. And that actually gets discussed here. One of the clones and Laura talk about the fact that Laura doesn't kill, but she does do terrible things nonetheless. So the ethics of dismemberment, which would be a great name for a metal band, I'm really glad that actually comes into play. It's refreshing. It's once again this book doing an awesome action story, just a cut above a lot of the competition. Next up is Uncanny X-Men number 1, yes, another one, written by Cullen Bunn, with pencils by Greg Land, inks by Jay Leiston, and colors by Nolan Woodard. And, I gotta say, not bad at all. We have liked Bunn as a writer for a long time, specifically because of his work on Magneto, which was stellar. So, an X-Men book with Magneto as the main character and a team, okay, good premise. We were a little concerned when we heard about the artist, though, because historically we have not been fans of Greg Land's work. It's very heavily photoreferenced, kind of too photoreferenced.
That's certainly one way to put it.
Yeah, characters often look more like models than people because he's referencing models.
Well, and that leads to issues with consistency in portrayal, and it also leads to issues with expression and character position and things like that not matching action and dialogue.
Yeah. Now, that said, this is the best work I've seen Greg Land do in terms of just superhero comics art, maybe ever. Overall, it's really good work. The storytelling is very coherent, the backgrounds are nice and detailed, characters' faces look consistent from one panel to the next.
Here's the thing, the things you're describing are, for me, the bare baseline minimum for adequate.
That's fair.
I would not describe this as great based on those things. I would describe this as, maybe professional quality. These are all things that should be taken for granted on a professional comic book.
But, in a book where there was this concern, where the art was a concern, to see that not being really a problem is nice. Now, I do have one exception to that. Yeah. All the characters look like they should. They look good. I like them. And then there's Monet, M. Now, M's always been portrayed as very attractive. That's part of her character from the start, sure. But in this, she looks like she's a capital W woman TM in a commercial. Her salad just told her a hilarious joke, or she's really excited her yogurt's gonna help her poop better. She
looks traced out of a tampon ad.
Kind of, yeah. And that's weird. And I think partially why it's weird is because the rest of the art doesn't do that. So when she's in a panel with Psylocke, and Psylocke looks like a perfectly legit normal superhero, albeit a little thinner than she should be even for that, the contrast is just so strange. And I mean, her dialogue is very strongly written. Bunn has all of the characters' voices just totally freaking down. Magneto, obviously, but the rest of them as well. So it's weird. And really, if the art stops doing that in number 2 or whenever going forward, I really won't have any complaints about it. It'll be perfectly serviceable art with a truly stellar story, some excellent characters. I also want to talk a little bit about the premise of the book, which is cool, which is, we've seen the sort of hit squad team of X-Men before. They're called X-Force. This is basically a continuation of the last few iterations of X-Force, a proactive, semi-former villain, hard-edge team. Sure, cool. Led by Magneto, also cool. The fact that they're going around and basically tracking down people who are running away from the problems facing mutants instead of participating, is great. Magneto has always hated that sort of cowardice. He's always hated that sort of reactivity. And so it's thematically perfect for what we're looking at.
I want to go back to the photo reference issue because I want to make a PSA as a comics editor and professional, because this is something I feel really strongly about. There are artists who use photo reference heavily and get called out for it. Photo reference is fine. Photo reference is great, and photo reference is a really terrific way to compose art. And my cat apparently is walking around squawking and agreeing, so right on. But the artists who use photo reference well take their own or have massive files of it. And what they generally don't do is photo reference from ads. People in ads, people in magazine fashion spreads, are generally not doing what you want characters in comics to be doing, which is looking like they're part of a dynamic and organic movement. Characters who look like they're posing at all are going to make crap comics reference because they look like they're posing, and that's the issue with Monet here. Nobody in real life in the course of a conversation or a fight makes those faces. That's not a thing that happens, and it makes an entire page that's supposed to suggest action feel static. It feels forced. So yeah, photo reference is fine, but use it judiciously. Pay attention to what it's actually supposed to be doing, not just ways to make your own composition easier.
Yeah. So, that noticeable flaw aside, I think we have the makings of what could turn out to be an excellent comic. If that one problem stops being a problem, this is going to be really good. I know we've talked a lot about the problems this issue has, but overall, it's good stuff. Bunn is a standout writer. It's a great premise, a great lineup of characters. I mean, Archangel's back. What's up with that? We will find out, I'm sure. So, yeah, I would say, with a grain of salt, definitely recommended.
Next up is our other #1 this week. That's X-Men Worst X-Man Ever, #1, written by Max Bemis, with pencils and inks by Michael Walsh and colors by Ruth Redmond. This book is a lot of fun, man. Walsh and Redmond are a terrific art team. It's approachable. It's really engaging. The story is charming as hell, and it's charming in a way that very specifically reminds me of Kid, what if I were a mutant fantasies played through adult cynicism and sensibilities. Because the truth is, and what I think most of us who grew up thinking, well, what if I had superpowers, have eventually realized is that if we had superpowers, they would probably be useless. They would probably suck. For every mutant who's got, a healing factor or, pyrokinesis, there's a mutant who's got like 3 extra toes that don't do anything. And or a power that's active that actively harms them, which is what Worst X-Man Ever is about. It's a charming book, and it does a really good job of telling a kind of story that I think tends to almost always be compelling, which is a comparatively ordinary character situated just outside of the action and central cast that we're used to seeing.
Yeah. And speaking of used to seeing, this is a book that does not take place in the mainstream Marvel universe. It's not an Earth 616. It's in, I guess I'd call it like an X-Men best of universe. So you have, Frank Quitely era Cyclops, recent era Wolverine, Jubilee and her 90s guys. It's just sort of the most recognizable versions of each of those characters. And initially that annoyed me because we have so few mainstream continuity X books right now. But for this story, it works really well for exactly the reasons you were talking about, Jay. I mean, it's something where you can really put yourself into just X-Men in general. And I gotta say, it's also told really well. The writer Bemis, he's a musician, I think, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he's the head of a band called Say Anything. I don't know anything about them. Sure. But that really comes through. The pacing of this book is clearly coming from somebody who knows for pacing.
The other thing I like about it, and that I like about the story, and you were talking about the shared world, the kind of connected best of world. So I love that. I love that we're not getting stories set just in one single chronology, that we're getting books like this in like X-Men 92. Because the thing is, when you've got a universe and a multiverse and a continuity this lush and this complex, limiting yourself to one strain of it just seems really, really stupid to me. I mean, you've got so much to play in, and so much of the continuity that there is retroactively constructed anyway. Why wouldn't you use that? I've got a friend, Kel McDonald, who's a cartoonist, and one of the things that she said on world building panels that's always really stuck with me is that when you're telling a story, you change the parts of the world that get in the way of the story. And seeing people having the opportunity to finally do that with shared universe superhero comics, to not be bound to the single big Marvel continuity, is great. It means that there's just far, far wider potential and spectrum for really cool narratives using really evocative characters and combinations that wouldn't have been accessible otherwise.
So yeah, this one's going to be a 5-issue miniseries. We've only seen the first one so far, but based on that first one, definitely follow this book. Finally, we have the last issue of Deadpool and Cable, split second, infinite comic, cram some more words in that title, so that's number 6. Plotted and scripted by Fabian Nicieza, plotted and penciled by Riley Brown, with inks by Jay Leiston and Jeremy Freeman, and colors by Jim Charalampidis, I think. So yeah, this issue did what I hoped it would, which is retroactively it made the whole series really come together and work. This has been a series about time travel, and so all the stuff that didn't really seem to fit, all the stuff that seemed kind of throwaway or dumb, well, some of the jokes were still kind of dumb, but you know, Deadpool, it all came together. It's like watching the season finale of Babylon 5 Season 1, and all the stuff you didn't like from Season 1, now you kind of do. In some ways, but not others. So yeah, what this issue basically does is it resets Cable to his 90s-esque, which is to say his default status quo. You know, telepathy, telekinesis, robot arm, big glowing eye, lots of guns, that sort of thing. And while I'm a little sad to see the stuff that Cy Spurrier did with Cable in his most recent run of X-Force undone, you know, if you're going to do something like this, doing it with the character he's most known for pairing with, for better or for worse, and handling it so, dare I say, deftly, that's the way to do it.
Here's the thing, I have no idea whether this actually resets the status quo. I have no idea what the relationship of this series is to continuity.
Oh, actually, Fabian Nicieza in interviews has said this takes place a bit before Cable's current appearance in Uncanny Avengers, so it's absolutely in continuity a little bit before where main continuity is. So yeah, it manages to be funny. The fourth wall breaking really works. At one point, Deadpool talks about the difficulty of recapping a story involving continuity, time travel, Cable's alternate temporal selves, that sort of thing. It's like, dude, we sympathize. That's our job too. Maybe Deadpool can co-host. I don't know.
No, absolutely not. Under no circumstances.
But yeah, the art works well. It's got the right mix of bright colors and cartooniness that I think a Deadpool and Cable story that evokes the 90s should. It's got a lot of cool callbacks to previous continuity, especially for a character with so many pasts like Cable.
I don't know if I'd explicitly call it good, but it's definitely fun.
It's definitely fun, yeah, and there's a lot to be said for books that are fun. And you know, with the conclusion this solid, for me, that makes me want to go ahead and recommend the series in general. If you really don't like Deadpool, maybe skip it. If you really hate the 90s, maybe skip it. But otherwise, it is a fun romp through time and space. Well, mostly time. But it's fun, and it's definitely a romp.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it compulsive reading, but if it's the kind of thing you like, you'll definitely like it. So that's 4 of 3. What's our issue of the week?
Our issue of the week is definitely X-Men Worst X-Man Ever #1. This was a really pleasant surprise. It's a great synergy between the art and the writing. It's fun, it's funny, it's sad. There's really not a lot bad to say about it, and one of the great things about it is it stands completely alone.
Synergy.
Hey man, synergy is a good word. It's from Gem, and also business, and a lot of things.
A lot of things.
Yes. So yes, read that book. What's our favorite panel?
Well, our panel of the week is actually an entire page, and it is likewise from X-Men Worst X-Men Ever #1. The thing I like about this page is that what's going on here, superficially the action, is a pretty typical X-Men fight scene, and that's clear in the background, but it's also not the focus. The art, the composition, and the coloring all come together really well to keep the center where it should be, on the protagonist and on Beast. As the action, as the bulk of the actual explosive stuff goes on around them. It's a really, really cool trick, and it's a really good use of comics as a visual medium.
That's it for this and last week. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you've seen here but think it would be way better without our goofy faces, you should check out our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes go up every Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, also at iTunes and Stitcher. What have we got for them this week?
Okay, so you guys remember how in our last New Mutants episode, we covered the death of Doug Ramsey? Yeah, so this time we actually spend the entire episode focusing on the issue about his funeral. It's really, really sad, and Warlock is the saddest robot teenager.
It is maybe the saddest issue ever.
I think it kind of is.
That podcast, these video reviews, and everything at rachelandmiles.com are brought to you by our rad Patreon subscribers. We are an entirely listener-supported and ad-free project. Those are the folks who make it possible. We would love it if you wanted to join their august ranks, which you can do at the link either above or below this podcast, depending on where you're watching it.
In the meantime, we will see you next week with presumably fewer X-Books. Take care.